The clang of metal doors echoes down the corridor, sharp and final. The air smells faintly of bleach, sweat, and something else. Something warm, processed, and faintly burnt. In a world where every movement is timed, every breath measured, even food carries the weight of control. Inside the walls of prison, meals are not simply served. They are rationed, calculated, and used as a quiet form of power. Every day begins the same way. Long before sunrise, inmates line up in single file, their trays ready, eyes blank. They know what's coming. Oatmeal that tastes like paste, coffee so weak it's barely colored, bread dry enough to crumble at the touch. It's breakfast, but not the kind most would recognize. The sound of spoons scraping metal becomes the morning's only rhythm. To outsiders, prison food is just another detail, a small part of a larger system. But inside, it defines everything. Routine, morale, even survival. Meals are one of the few constants in a life of uncertainty. And yet, they are designed to remind inmates of where they stand. Nothing too satisfying, nothing too human. Just enough to keep the body moving. In some prisons, the menu is printed on paper. Rice, beans, cornbread, soup. On the surface, it seems balanced, even fair. But what arrives on the tray is a distant echo of those words. Soups watered down to near transparency, meats replaced by textured substitutes, and portions so small they vanish in 3 bites. It's not uncommon for inmates to find hair, mold, or even insects in their meals, and complaints rarely lead to change. In a place where your voice is already stripped away, your appetite follows. There's a rhythm to hunger behind bars, one that doesn't just happen by accident. Meals are served at fixed times, hours apart, forcing inmates to adapt, ration, or go without. Hunger becomes part of the schedule, another form of discipline. For those who misbehave, food can even be used as punishment. Cold meals, smaller portions, or in extreme cases, something called the loaf, a dense, tasteless brick made from leftover ingredients mashed together. It's meant to meet nutritional requirements while reminding you of your place. But behind the monotony lies something deeper, a reflection of how society values those it chooses to confine. The quality of prison food says less about what inmates deserve and more about what the system believes they're worth. When food becomes punishment instead of nourishment, justice loses a part of its humanity. In the kitchens, where the meals are prepared, another story unfolds. Inmates wearing hairnets and gloves move in tight formation, watched closely by guards. They stir massive pots, chop vegetables that barely resemble their natural color, and fill trays on conveyor lines that never stop moving. For some, kitchen duty is a privilege, a break from the monotony of the cell. For others, it's a reminder that even inside the walls, exploitation thrives. They work for cents an hour, producing thousands of meals a day under strict conditions. A mistake can cost privileges, or worse, solitary confinement. And yet, in the midst of the routine, there are moments of strange unity. Inmates joke quietly, share tips on seasoning, or sneak an extra slice of bread to a friend. In those rare flashes, food becomes something more than control. It becomes connection. Even in a system designed to isolate, hunger creates community. Shared suffering becomes a shared identity, and within that, the faintest trace of dignity survives. But not all prisons are equal. In some state facilities, food budgets have been slashed repeatedly, forcing staff to substitute quality with cheap bulk ingredients. Powdered milk replaces fresh. Frozen vegetables stand in for real produce. Chicken becomes soy. Beef becomes a blend of whatever can be purchased in bulk. The lower the cost, the better it looks on paper. And for private prison contractors, the cheaper the meal, the greater the profit. For the inmates, it's a daily reminder that they are numbers in a system that measures efficiency in dollars, not humanity. The line between punishment and neglect blurs with every tray served. Still, Not every story is the same. There are prisons experimenting with reform, programs where inmates learn to grow their own food, cook balanced meals, and even serve others as part of rehabilitation. These rare initiatives show that nourishment can heal more than hunger. It can rebuild responsibility, cooperation, and a sense of purpose. When inmates learn to feed themselves with dignity, they begin to reclaim a part of their humanity that prison often takes away. Yet these programs are exceptions, not the rule. In most facilities, the cycle remains unchanged. Low budgets, poor oversight, and indifference disguised as policy. For those living behind the walls, every meal is a reminder of powerlessness, and every empty stomach, a quiet form of resistance. Food in prison is not just about survival. It's about control, hierarchy, and hope. A spoonful of tasteless beans becomes a daily negotiation between obedience and endurance. Each tray served tells a story of systems built for profit, of lives suspended between hunger and punishment, and of resilience that refuses to die. And as the last light of the day fades through the bars, the smell of dinner fills the air once more, a mixture of grease, exhaustion, and routine. Tea. Doors close again, and silence settles over the block. Another day ends with another tray emptied, but inside every inmate, the same question lingers. When food loses its meaning, what's left to keep you human? Beyond the trays, the lines, and the tasteless meals lies a system far larger than any prison kitchen. It is a network of contracts, corporations, and profit. A quiet machine that feeds millions, not for compassion, but for revenue. Hunger, here, has an economy. Across the country, prisons sign multi-million-dollar deals with private food service providers. On paper, these companies promise efficiency, nutrition, and modern management. In practice, they deliver something far less, a diet built on the cheapest ingredients available. Every cent saved on food becomes a cent earned in profit. In a place where no one can complain freely, there's no pressure to do better. The invisible hand of business reaches through the bars and touches every plate. Inmates quickly learn what those numbers mean. Meat becomes mystery, vegetables lose color, and every meal starts to look exactly like the last. Many say the food is served cold, half-cooked, or simply not enough. But hunger inside prison isn't a mistake, it's a method. It keeps people subdued, compliant, and dependent. When you can't choose what to eat, you stop expecting choice at all. That's how control is maintained, quietly, through the stomach. For those with money, another system exists, the commissary. Behind the counter, shelves gleam with brightly colored snacks, ramen noodles, cookies, soda, peanut butter, and instant coffee. It looks harmless, even normal. But the prices are far from fair. A single pack of noodles might cost an inmate 2 days' wages. A small jar of peanut butter can mean a week of saving. The commissary becomes both a privilege and a trap, a place where comfort comes at a cost. And yet, it's the only way for many to escape the monotony of the cafeteria. It's where they find small tastes of freedom, small ways to feel human again. A pack of noodles can be more than food. It can be hope. Ironically, the same corporations that supply prison meals often run these commissaries. The worse the cafeteria food, the better their sales. It's a cycle designed to feed hunger and profit from it at the same time, a system that ensures the stomach never rests and the money never stops moving. Inside the cells, food takes on a new meaning. It becomes language, trade, even survival. Ramen becomes currency. Candy bars are favors. Meals are deals. For some, cooking together becomes a ritual, a way to fight loneliness, to turn emptiness into something meaningful. They call it making a spread, a mix of noodles, chips, tuna, or whatever can be found. It's not fine dining, but it's freedom. In that bowl of improvised food, they taste something the system cannot take away: choice. Many former inmates describe food as one of the hardest parts of their sentence, not because of what it is, but because of what it represents: Each tray reminds them that they are forgotten, that somewhere, someone has decided they are worth less than the cost of a real meal. Food becomes a message from the world outside. You don't matter enough to be fed well. Yet even in that bleakness, the human spirit adapts. Small kindnesses bloom in the harshest conditions. Inmates share what little they have, a spoon of coffee, a half biscuit, a piece of bread. These gestures carry more weight than they appear. In a place built on deprivation, generosity becomes an act of rebellion. Outside the walls, few understand the scale of the industry. Feeding America's incarcerated population is $1 billion business. Every contract, every shipment of bulk rice and powdered milk adds to a profit chain that stretches far beyond prison walls. The system isn't broken, it's functioning exactly as designed, cheap, efficient, and lucrative. The ones who suffer most are those who have no say. Occasionally, the truth escapes. Reports surface of expired ingredients, maggots in storage, or kitchens unfit for human use. Whistleblowers speak out, but the stories fade. The public moves on, distracted by new headlines, and the machine keeps running. Behind closed doors, the trays keep coming 3 times a day, without fail. But something is beginning to shift. Activists, journalists, and reform groups are shedding light on what has long been hidden. They argue that feeding people decently isn't generosity. It's a human right. Slowly, a few prisons have begun to change course, introducing locally sourced produce, farm-to-table rehabilitation programs, and inmate culinary training. The goal is simple: to replace punishment with responsibility and neglect with nourishment. In one facility, inmates grow vegetables in small greenhouses. They harvest lettuce, tomatoes, and herbs, learning how to cook meals that taste like real food. For the first time in years, they see color on their plates, not gray or brown, but green, red, and gold. The act of planting something, watching it grow, and eating it later becomes a reminder that life can still move forward, even behind bars. These stories are still rare, fragile like seedlings in dry soil, but they prove that the system can change, if there is will, and if there is awareness. Because in the end, the issue of prison food is not about ingredients, it's about value. What do we believe a human being deserves, even when they've fallen? Every tray served behind bars tells a silent story. A story of systems that prioritize profit over people. A story of endurance, of quiet rebellion, of hope that refuses to die. Food, at its core, is the language of humanity. And when that language is denied, something fundamental in all of us begins to fade. If justice truly seeks to reform, then it must begin with something as simple as a meal, not as punishment, but as a gesture of dignity. Because sometimes the smallest kindness, a warm meal, a taste of real flavor, can remind even the forgotten that they still belong to the human world.